What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of the Apple TV Plus original series, Murderbot Season 1. This will follow the finale, which is episode 10. It is called The Perimeter, and it's directed by Paul Weitz. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally come to the conclusion of the first season, or at least hopefully the first season of Murderbot. It was overall a mixed bag of a season, and the episode was a mixed bag of really interesting ideas, but also too late ideas. I thought some of the stuff that happens in this episode is really kind of thought-provoking. The idea of the murderbots used for oppression against a population that is very much against these corporations. And that is something that I think could have been much more utilized. Hopefully, maybe in the next seasons that they'll kind of go forward with that kind of stuff, but it doesn't look like it from what Murderbot ends up doing. And it's just overall just kind of it has a somber approach to it. It's very sad because these individuals were pretty much used by their corporation. They had another contract that ended up being killed, and Greg Chris and all that nonsense. And I think in the end, I think what the problem was is there was too many characters, not a lot of development, especially among the main core cast. And I think the standout, outside of Mensa and of course Garathan, who was a David Dastmalchian character, it's basically Alexander Skarsgård's story of Murderbot. It's his kind of journey, its journey, I guess you could say. And as much as I appreciate that, and I do appreciate what Alexander Skarsgård is doing in this series, but you can't just have like two characters that have dimension, everything else be just tropes of characters. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm not saying every character in Murderbot has to be a dimensional character. I'm just saying that it has to be more than just Garathan and Mensa. It has to be more than just those two characters having the most dimension, because Pinley and Roddy and all these characters have interesting kind of what you would think interesting back history, and they're just not done with anything. And with the next, hopefully with the next season, who knows, with Apple TV and all these streaming services, because they cancel things all the time, there just isn't much there to go off of. It almost feels like if there is a second season, it will be mostly just Garathan and Mensa for the most part, or we'll get a new cast of characters. And I think the problem that remains, and something that is actually really well implemented in something like the After Party or even Ted Lasso or Severance, is the characters that are the background characters, the characters that aren't the fully main characters, are developed, they're dimensional, and that's what you don't get here. They're not dimensional, they're tropes, they're not actual people, and that becomes a problem. And I think that's outside of just this time length. I mean, this could have been an hour episode and probably been a lot better, but I think that's what my main issue has always been, is just these characters aren't well developed. And I think that's a lot of people's issues and why the series kind of falters in that respect. And it's maybe the problem of Paul Weitz and Chris Weitz, who I think she actually wrote pretty much the whole entire season, is you look at something like American Pie. A lot of those characters aren't really developed very well. They're not dimensional in a lot of respects, but they're interesting. And they're interesting here, but they're not developed really well. And I think that's just the nature of what it is. I think it's different when you look like About a Boy, when you have a smaller group of characters and stuff like that. But what's interesting about this, and what is also a fault of it, is the simple fact that like we finally go to like the main planet. We go back to where it all began. Murderbot is actually, his mind is wiped, so how he's going to be reinvigorated or reintegrated to society as a SecBot. And there's some interesting ideas there, but once again, the people that run these companies are played off like idiots. They're played off like bad guys. And I'm sorry, but not all corpos are bad people. It just seems like in movies they are. It's really weird. It's a play on the fact of like major corporations, like the ones out there like Amazon and Google and so on and so forth. They're played off like the evil entities, and they're not always necessarily that. When you see like Murderbot's like mind wiped erase, I think that's a really interesting idea, because it leads into some dramatic material with Murderbot and who he and what it is and how it operates and how it perceives things. And when you take that all away, it's not like it's not been done a billion times before, but it has. But when you take that all away, what is Murderbot really but a idea, a thing, a emotion that triggers all of us? We all have these emotions that can be taken away from us at any moment, whether we get in like an accident or, a tragic event happens where we hide back our memories. Like taking away its memories is a really interesting idea. And the idea of the crew wanting to buy Murderbot is interesting. It's just, there's not enough material there. It's just not enough there it feels like if you play the game Mass Effect, which I know a lot of people have, and some people who watch this review haven't, the idea of that is building upon a world, a society where you are a main character and you're building this party and these friends and these ideas, and it has a whole it's the corporation thing, and has the idea of like what it is to be in this wide world where we are learning. This is very much a Pinocchio story, and there's really none of that there. There's bits and pieces with like the interview by the press, with talking to the corporations and stuff like that, with the meetings of the different corporatizations and stuff like that, and it really is just bits and pieces. There's just not enough there. They focus so much on this planet that they were on and Grey Chris. And once again, if these had been hour episodes, I think it would have worked a lot better. But because this is a book that's like 130 pages long, there's not enough material to go off of. So I feel like it's lost in the mix, or lost in the ether or something like that. But I do like how Garathan goes above and beyond. He goes to his dealer. He uses his computer. He gets all the memories for Murderbot through, of course, Sanctuary Moon, where Murderbot has put all its memories at. I like how Garathan has kind of taken his ideologies and kind of thrown them out the window. Is much better, understands Murderbot. But once again, that shift has been the most dimensional of all the characters, unlike the other characters like I'm talking about. Mensa is an individual that's kind of been there, kind of on Murderbot's side for most of the season, as we've seen. I do like the fact that they're very much invested on keeping Murderbot as an individual. It's like individuality and stuff like that. I do appreciate that. I think that's interesting. But once again, it's shallow. It's not well developed, and it feels kind of soft in what it's trying to do. But when the stuff with Murderbot itself, like how it operates once its mind's wiped, how it like takes down a bunch of people in the crowds, is really interesting. It's really interesting the fact that it like starts to remember stuff. It starts to remember stuff that it, like the killing of the people, like it hasn't had all of its mind wiped and stuff like that. How the crew is worried about if they find out that Murderbot has lost its government module and stuff like that. And once again, it's a lot of stuff that's really interesting. And it's not really till the end of this episode that it really feels like it's finding its footing, where we see a character of Murderbot given its individuality. And what does it do? It goes off to be a bot for something else, and it doesn't want to stay because it doesn't want to be controlled. It's basically unshackling the control of what the sec unit or the security unit is meant to do. So once again, it's a journey. It's a Pinocchio type story where it has to go off and do like the Bicentennial Man thing or something like that, where it goes off and does its own thing, and it goes off and explores the world and learns like a kid and becomes like the AI artificial intelligence robot in that movie. And I found that stuff interesting. I love the idea of like how somber it is, how sad it is, but how hopeful it is and stuff like that. And that's what this series misses throughout its entire run of its season, where it really has an identity crisis on like individuality, and has those problems of dimensionality and stuff like that. And it really is trying to add too much into one singular episode that really struggles under its own weight. And when Garathan tries to explain to Murderbot that these people are good, these people they respect you, they respect who they are, they're weird but they're interesting, and it's just another layer of like, oh, you should come with us, because they unshackle him to basically not be a security bot, to be its own thing, to do whatever it wants, but it still feels like it's going to be controlled, and that's what it doesn't want to be. So I really like that it goes off onto the base, the city that they're in, and it goes off to be something like its own thing. And watching Mensa at the end cry because she knows what it's doing, she knows what it needs to do. Watching just kind of how it plays out is really interesting. But once again, the major issue is it spent so much time with this nonsense, with this story that's not really that interesting. I maybe, like I said, the book's supposed to be much more interesting, to be fairly honest, but it feels like there's so many layers. It feels like it's a lot of pieces and parts that are kind of cobbled together, and it just doesn't feel like it's wholly put together. I think, like I said, the stuff in the last episode, this episode, The Perimeter, had been kind of a focus on like 3 or 4 episodes of an hour each. I think that would have been a much more interesting journey than what we're getting here, to be fairly honest. I think it has a lot of interesting ideas, but not all the interesting ideas are well represented. And in the end, I just think it's just not a very good, it's a mixed episode. It's an episode that's entertaining. It's an episode that, is like, the last minute saves and stuff like that. But I'm really hoping when they get into it, if quote unquote, if Apple greenlights the second season, they've greenlit 3 seasons of Foundation. So, we'll see if they greenlight another season of Murderbot because they have the money. I hope this series has done well for them, and I hope it's been a series that's been worth their money that they spent, because it's a very expensive, you can tell it's very expensive. And I think for the most part, I think like some episodes are better than others, but I just think it's a very uneven season, to be fairly honest. I think it's a very kind of, you want more out of it, you expect more out of it, and I think maybe the 130 pages didn't help it very much. So maybe they should have squashed two books together. I don't know, but maybe they're trying to do a 5-6 season series or whatever. But if they had, once again, just kind of made each episode an hour or something, kind of stretched it out, done something, or, shortened the season to like 5 episodes or something like that, I think it would have been a much more stronger season. But because we got it parceled out as 25 to 30 minute episodes, I just don't think it works. I think it loses something in the ether and something in the the mix, as you could say. And for the episode, I'm going to give it a grade of I don't know, it's like a 7.5 out of 10. It's, it's fine. It's not as strong as like some of the other. I think last episode 9 was much stronger than this episode. But it still has some fun moments. It still has some interesting moments. For the season, I'll give it a 8 out of 10. I think that's justified. I think it's in the middle. Some episodes were like 6 and 5, some episodes 7 and 8. So we'll give it like a 7 or an 8 out of 10, just to kind of even it out on the curve. But it's still a entertaining season. I think I told a lot of people, I said, just wait for the season to end, just kind of binge it, because I think it'll work better than it does as a parceled out series. But yeah, that's my take on episode 10, which is the perimeter, as well as my overall take on the series itself. So a 7.5 out of 10 for the episode and an 8 out of 10 for the season. So there you go. So anyways, thank you so much for going on this journey of Murderbot season 1. Hopefully we'll see you for season 2. In the comments below, what do you think of the season? What do you think of the episode? Are you looking forward to the new season? If there is a green light on the new season, I don't know, because I haven't heard. But let me know why. If not, all that good stuff. Otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell. Top the fun is coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next review of whatever I do. Peace out, guys.